तो गाइस आज हम रिएक्ट करने वाले हैं एक और नई वीडियो, वो भी इसी रैम्पेज की। तो गाइस स्टार्ट करते हैं। द टाइम बॉय प्ले टाइम वॉज ऑन द न्यूज। देखते हैं भाई, यार न्यूज में आया है, क्या सीन है। द टाइम बॉय प्ले टाइम सही है यार, बट एक चीज है यार, आइकॉनिक जो कैरेक्टर है ना इस गेम का, हगी वगी, उसे कोई नहीं हटा सकता भाई। दिस इज द ओनली थिंग, ये सबसे अलग है भाई इस गेम का ना। मेन एंटागोनिस्ट कह लो गेम का, मतलब पूरी गेम डेवलपमेंट में इसका ज्यादा रोल है भाई, सीरियसली। चलो देखते हैं इसमें क्या है इस वीडियो में, लेट्स सी।
2022, Poppy Playtime was attacked by the entire media, with articles warning people to...
ओह, ये तो न्यूज की हेडलाइंस। व्हाट पेरेंट्स नीड टू नो अबाउट हगी वगी एंड द बॉय प्ले टाइम गेम टेकिंग ओवर द एलिमेंट्री स्कूल। हैं? टेकिंग ओवर?
Stay away from the game. Real life police investigation.
ओ, पुलिस इन्वेस्टिगेशन भाई। स्टार्टिंग में इतना सब कुछ फेस किया गया इन लोगों ने, गेम इतनी पुलिस तक पहुंच गई गेम। वाओ, अटेंशन पेरेंट्स, देखते हैं।
And a bunch of real news reports covering the game's iconic mascot.
बोला था ना भाई, आइकॉनिक कैरेक्टर है लौंडा। आई लाइक इट ब्रो।
Huggy Wuggy. Huggy Wuggy. Huggy Wuggy. Huggy Wuggy.
But why did all of this happen? In 2021, the YouTube animation channels Zamination and Enchanted Mob, who were already working together at this point, would collaborate on a new video game company.
Buy subscriber? Bad Games.
Bad
नाम ही बैड गेम्स है, सोचो गाइस, इसको कोई कुछ नहीं कह सकता।
Games, yes, that's actually what they called it, and would post a teaser for their first indie horror game they were working.
ओह, मतलब बैड गेम्स ऑफिशियल डेवलप, मतलब स्टार्टिंग का सीन है ये। Nice.
On Poppy Playtime, showing a toy doll under the same name undergoing maintenance with some creepy and mysterious shots mixed between. Following a few months of development and a well-needed name change to Mob Games, they would release a gameplay trailer and eventually a few days later on October 12th release the full game, which they actually had super low hopes for, as the promotion leading up to this wasn't performing particularly well and there wasn't really much hype behind the game pre-release in the slightest. But despite this, upon fans enjoyed the unique gameplay and puzzle elements, especially with the main gameplay gimmick being the grab pack hands that were used for various different creative puzzles. But most importantly, people fell in love with the first...
देखा, the people only fall in love with this huggy wuggy
chapter's main mascot, Huggy Wuggy, a former toy of this abandoned toy company we were exploring that, like many other characters in this genre, at first looks cute and cuddly, but quickly he turns twisted, ominously lurking around the player as they explore the rooms, before at the end of the chapter finally fully revealing his hungry and ravenous state from a dark room, giving us one of the best and most intense indie...
ये वाला जो चीज है ना भाई, ये एक ऐसा गेम का चीज है ना भाई, आज तक किसी गेम में नहीं देखा। सबसे ज्यादा हॉरिफाइंग है ये। मुझे लग रहा है न्यूज में इसी सीन की वजह से ये गेम न्यूज में आया था। मैं बता सकता हूँ, ये सीन जो है ना सच में बहुत ज्यादा एपिक है भाई। यहाँ पे जो फटती है ना भाई, मैंने देखा है ब्रो।
horror chase scenes,
जितने लोगों को मैंने खेलते देखे है ना ये वाला सीन, ये वाला पार्ट, भाई सच में भाई हॉरिफाइंग है।
through a ventilation system as Huggy Wuggy crammed himself through, attacking us. While the game itself critically was received well and was fairly popular, the title would really begin to make a name for itself when content creators started to make their own fan videos related to the game, whether that be through gameplays, theories, or animations, flooding YouTube with literally millions of videos on the game, and more specifically its iconic mascot.
आइकॉनिक भाई, मैंने पहले गैस कर लिया था। बैड गेम्स और अर्ली मॉब एंटरटेनमेंट, चैप्टर 1 चेज सीन इज द बेस्ट। हमेशा से बेस्ट था भाई ये। सच में ये आज भी मेरे को डरावना लगता है बहुत।
Huggy, who over time started to exceed the popularity of the game itself, and Borderline became a cultural icon of the time, popping up not just all over YouTube and the internet, but also in
ये क्या हो रहा है? बॉयकॉट हो रहा है क्या? हगी वगी बॉयकॉट हो रहा है क्या? अरे भाई
real life through public events and merchandising, most of which not even done by the
भाई मर्चेंडाइज तो यार कहीं मिले ना ऑफलाइन में, मैं इसे खरीद लूंगा। ऑनलाइन महंगा यार।
developers themselves, but rather by bootleg companies selling the unlicensed characters across the world through kiosks and various other markets, making it nearly impossible to go outside without seeing this little creature roaming about. Huggy Wuggy and Poppy Playtime almost immediately went from completely unknown to the biggest indie horror game since Five Nights at Freddy's, all in a month. When they announced a second chapter through a trailer, the video got over
65 मिलियन व्यूज चैप्टर 2 में ही। सही में भाई ये इनके लिए तो बड़ा लकी साबित हुआ है ये गेम। मतलब हगी वगी कह लो, सीक्वेंस ही कह लो पूरा।
million views, more than any other chapter's gameplay.
हैं? मतलब चैप्टर 3 में भी 22 मिलियन, चैप्टर 3 17 मिलियन, 14 मिलियन, 65 मिलियन। चैप्टर 2 अभी भी मस्त है भाई, सीरियसली बोलूंगा ना, मेरे को आज भी चैप्टर 2 सबसे ज्यादा डरावनी लगती है। हाँ, गेम के कुछ ऐसे सी पार्ट्स है भाई।
Was combined and more than any other game in the genre. Mob Games at an instant was truly on top of the world. However, the game wasn't without its fair share of backlash, as directly following its release, the title, which was charged at $5, was criticized for being overly expensive, as the game was realistically only 30 minutes long max, when it probably should have been free, which they eventually would do a few months later, along with the developers themselves wanting to cash in on the hype by creating tons of merch to go alongside the super short game, leading to accusations of greed, especially when in December of 2021, the devs would attempt to create NFTs of the game's various posters. An obviously super controversial move, especially since they hid lore secrets about the next chapter inside of these tokens, which after the backlash they stopped.
भाई साहब ये लोग ये भी बेचते थे, इसका मतलब ओ बट सही है यार। 0.01 इथेरियम भाई, ये तो बड़ी बढ़िया चीज कर रखा है इन लोगों ने।
Promoting and would later claim
but
they
backlash
donated
मिला
all
इन
of
लोगों
the
को।
profits to various charities, although they've since deleted this post, so take that for what you will. While the company itself would come under fire as animation channel Ecker Coaster accused the game of being a ripoff of their own personal project released a year.
The recent game that has been blowing up, Poppy Playtime stole my game Vengeance. Venge Story. Huh?
Prior Venge, which while being a pretty large stretch in hindsight with very mild similarities at best that could be applied.
Their character design, my character designs. हैं? ये कहाँ से सिमिलर है भाई? ये क्या हो रहा है? ओ ये कैसे सिमिलर है? भाई ये तो कुछ भी बोल रहा है। ना ना ना, ये तो सिमिलर नहीं है बिल्कुल भी।
To any game in the genre, still
चैप्टर हगी वगी दहन अच्छा दहन लिख रहे हो भाई, ये कैसे सिमिलर है? पागल नहीं बना रहा है बंदा।
drew interest as the two groups had collided before in a previous controversy where various members of the company were seen being rude and snarky towards the young animator, at least in 2018 to 2019, something they would again have to apologize for. But while these controversies were mostly on the internet and faded away pretty quickly over time, while this was all happening, they started to be attacked by the mainstream
Kid social media nightmare.
news. In January of 2022, it would be reported that a primary school had started warning parents about the Huggy Wuggy character and the danger it might have on young children, with the article itself stating
मतलब जो हिसाब ये कैटनैप को दे रहे थे ना, वो तो साला हगी वगी दे रहा है इन लोगों को। जहाँ तक मुझे मालूम है ये बच्चों को नाइटमेयर देता था। हगी वगी कैरेक्टर ही ऐसा भाई, नाइटमेयर क्यों ना है? सच में भाई
that in one song in which the character offers free hugs, it includes the lyrics, "I could hug you here forever till you breathe your last breath together, my teeth sharp and ready, in my grasp, yeah, they're deadly." Also claiming they saw children recreating a game on the playground with hugging and whispering nasty things in the recipient's ear. Now, what you might be thinking right now is, what in the world are they talking about? Huggy Wuggy doesn't sing or even have a voice at all in the game, and there is nothing ever about him whispering things in people's ears, so what's going on? Well, what they were
whispering things.
specifically referencing in this article was actually a fan-made song by Tryhard Ninja, Free Hugs, which contained a lot of the lyrics quoted in this article, although they never explicitly stated it was fan-made, which would come back to bite them in a moment. Now, while warnings like these might seem unprovoked and unnecessary because there's tons of non-kid-friendly content all over YouTube and the internet,
They
a
are
lot of
deadly.
this fear around online horror trends
Viral Momo challenge is a malicious hawk say charities.
was piggybacked off of the Momo Challenge hoax in 2019 and the popularity of Squid Game in 2021 that were both somewhat recent internet phenomena
ये 2021 की बात हो रही है.
at the time that worried parents about the dangers of letting children online where they could come across violent and dangerous subjects, with Huggy seeming to be the next news target. As just a few days later, on February 4th, the website parents.com, a site that specialized in providing warnings and advice to parents about the world around them, would make an article based on these primary school reports, what parents need to know about Huggy Wuggy and the Poppy Playtime game taking over elementary schools, where here they claimed that in the game, Huggy would sing the creepy songs and lyrics mentioned earlier, seemingly mistaking it for an official song in the actual game. Here, they also restated other arguments from the past article, like that the name Huggy Wuggy was deceiving, as hugs should be seen as something kind and loving, and would also allegedly slip through YouTube and other social media's parental barriers, although a YouTube spokesperson later on would come out and say that Huggy didn't appear on their kid-friendly platforms. But regardless, this parents article is where things would completely spiral out of control, as none other than Fox News would catch wind of these reports, and on February 24th would air a segment discussing the popular and supposedly dangerous character, while also interviewing an editorial director from parents.com, where they dug into the character
ये parents.com की डायरेक्टर है. हाँ.
further, despite the anchor not even knowing the name of the game, leading to this iconic clip.
It is unsettling, Stephen Jeanette, and it's called, innocently enough, the Huggy Wuggy game.
For the segment, they say more untrue
Huggy Wuggy game. Huggy Wuggy game. या Poppy Playtime. ये न्यूज वाले ना, इन लोगों को ना धो दूंगा मैं.
things, mentioning the weird hugging and singing in the ear thing again, which doesn't happen where, while in the background, they show the Tryhard Ninja music video they assumed was official that started this whole issue, ironically completely ignoring they literally credited
तो लिरिक्स तो इन लोग ही ले लिए अच्छे से, मतलब है ना.
the fan animators who made the fan song during the segment. This entire interview was over-exaggerated and filled with lies about the game. And while thankfully most of the internet didn't take this seriously, it more or less became a meme, if anything. Such a big news company covering this caused it to inevitably make rounds around the media, as there were a bunch of other news articles following in its footsteps, covering this same exact story, warning parents about the game. The publicity would get so bad that more schools around the world started to allegedly send home more letters to parents about the character, according to comments on Tryhard Ninja's music video. Not me only searching this up.
FNF ने पैसे दिए थे बुराई करने. भाई और क्या हो सकता है, न्यूज वाले ऐसे ही होते भाई. देखो बोलूं तो पैसे दिए थे और साले ये लोग बोलते हैं ना नेगेटिव चीजें ज्यादा फैलती है. तो ये नेगेटिव चीजों का ज्यादा करते हैं. इतना समझ लो, इन लोग देखो कोई भी चीज होती है ना, उसका पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव दोनों इम्पैक्ट पड़ता है. और न्यूज वाले करते क्या है, नेगेटिव को पकड़ के और बड़ा करते हैं, क्योंकि नेगेटिव चीजें फैलती बहुत तेज है. बस यही किया है इन लोगों ने।
Because the teachers from my sibling school put out an email about how worrying these songs are. I came here because a school put out a warning about kids watching this. This eventually caught the attention of a local county sheriff's office who looked into these reports and
पुलिस
would
भी आ गई।
eventually release a public warning, and not against Poppy Playtime, but rather against various different content creators that were making potentially harmful content, listing creators like GameTunes, Samtunes, and
अच्छा।
GH's, citing specific unnamed videos where they allegedly report themes of sexual assault and violence. And despite specifically making it clear these were call-outs to content creators and not the games themselves, this didn't stop people from elevating the fear further, as a parent reported on Reddit getting a letter sent from their children's school claiming that, quote, not only is the content of Huggy Wuggy incredibly violent, but often depicts assaults as well. Obviously concerning this parent and presumably many others who received this letter as well, along with an article by an English County's police and crime commissioner about acceptable violence, citing Poppy Playtime as a byproduct of normalizing violence as an aberrant game that would scare innocent children and potentially lead them to try and hug another child to death. Now, calling this kind
hug into death
of content out on YouTube isn't inherently bad at all, because it can help teach parents about the digital world around them, and there have been plenty of instances of children being targeted in malicious content on YouTube. However, as you could expect, most of these articles and news stories were heavily controversial, as they were mixing fan content with the real game, clearly without them playing or even doing any research into what Poppy Playtime even was, and instead were spreading these mostly over dramatic claims about the game and what it was, which is unfair to the developers and also the parents who trust these places to give accurate information. Fortunately though, both the CEO of Mob, Zach Bellin, creator Tryhard Ninja, would be interviewed by Forbes, clearing the air, and thankfully since then this drama has mostly been laid to rest.
भाई साहब तो बड़ा लंबा चौड़ा खींच दिया था भाई
claims about the game and what it
सही में साला न्यूज़ ने तो क्या ही कर दिया भाई, बट स्टिल है तो बढ़िया गेम भाई, कुछ भी कहो। बट एक चीज़ है भाई नोटिसेबल, यही है कि अच्छे दिनों के लिए ना बुरे वक्त से गुजरना पड़ता है भाई। इस गेम कंपनी ने भी गुजरा वो वक्त।